1963. When he opened up his shop and I had bought my first Porsche. And I started to think, actually, at that point, in 1963, Harold actually had 12 to 13 years of experience with Porsche. He worked as a young 18-year-old at a dealer in Centerton, Wisconsin, 1951. And here, in fact, is a picture of Harold delivering a 1952 Porsche, and he's the guy, if you can pass it around, Dave, delivering a 52 Porsche, the first car that was delivered in the state. He looks like the Fonz. Loafers, penny loafers, a long 1950s type haircut, and so by the time I met him, he had already been out to California, or he was going to be out to California, studying at the Art Center, and had worked at Johnny Van Newman's Porsche dealership in the mid-50s, came back to Wisconsin, worked at a dealership on 69th, 68th and North, excuse me, and so when I met him, this is kind of a thumbnail sketch of who Harold Zimdars was that was written up in the middle 60s. He had already been to the factory taking delivery of a car in 59, 60, and bought a Roadster, which presented itself as an opportunity to go racing because it wasn't a car that he had intended to acquire. Bought two Roadsters, actually, he and another guy. So shortly after that, Dave, here's an article out of the Panel on Harold Zimdars that I don't want to say he was legendary, but he already had a very, very strong basis for wrenching, designing. Some of his work was actually used by Porsche, or he had suggestions as to various componentry. He had been to the factory, he had factory contacts, and his racing career was like very quick. Here's a picture of Harold Zimdars on the wall at Meadowvale, the wall, and
it's Competition Motors.
Yes, Competition Motors, John Van Newman's, yeah. So anyway, Harold Zimdars was like a builder, mechanic, designer, had his own independent garage that was very successful. From there went on to sell Lotus, NSU, BMW, and eventually Nissan. And so that kind of is a thumbnail, 2.5-minute sketch of his experience, and he was like more than interested in helping us today and sharing with us what he remembers about the intricacies of a transmission and the front axle beam on the 356. And I've got a little pad here. Harold and I have kind of strategized and said no questions until he gets through his presentation, but we'll pass out a little piece of paper that you can write a question on, submit them after he's done with what he wants to cover, and then pass it around, and then send the pieces, the little questions over to us, and then he can answer them after the presentation itself. But, so Dr. Porsche's in.
It was quicker than I thought. If you know Tom.
Get to the point.
You know, I was trying to figure out how long was that I was working on Porsches. That was 67 years ago. Is that possible? 67 years ago that I was working on that?
Time flies.
When you're having fun. So, I wanted to talk first about the idiosyncrasies about this synchronous gearbox, which has caused much confusion for people because of the type of lubrication that it requires. Now, my memory isn't good enough, so I have to take notes here. The first Porsches and Volkswagens didn't have synchronizers at all. They had just straight gears, and so there was no problem of what kind of lubricant you would put in the gearbox, because the only thing we were concerned about is the high-point gear set and the differential part. There were no synchros to worry about. So, in 1952, they came out with a Model 519 transmission that had synchronizers in it, and it had steel shift forks instead of bronze, and it was built on a Volkswagen, which was called a split case transmission. The parts came apart and they were bolted together down the middle. Then later on, they came out with a 644 transmission in 1956, and that was this current transmission, which was referred to as the tunnel transmission, where these two parts can split. The only thing that's is the cover comes off the back, and that you can put a gear set out from the back side. Whereas before you used to open it like a book, just like a Volkswagen. And so then later on they came out with another Model 716 transmission, which had some updates and changed the synchros. And then finally they ended up with this Model 741 transmission, which was in the last 356s. Well, when Porsche came out with a combination of putting synchronizers in the gearbox that also had a ring of pinions high point set, that caused a lot of confusion for lubrication manufacturers, because if you wanted to favor the high point rear axle set with drive gears and the high point gears, you would have to have what they call an EP, extreme pressure freeze. However, you had a synchronizer that had either a steel collar like this here, or phosphorus metal tie, which the current units have. That you can use to make these synchronizers too slippery, and then they couldn't work. So if you put the EP grease in the differential, you would defeat the purpose of the synchro, because it causes synchros not to work. So we had a lot of difficulty finding a proper lubricant that would fit that need. And because the lubricants that were available at that time, we could not find a lubricant, and we had a customer with a Porsche 1959 by the name of Dick Drexler, and he was an oil company engineer and subsequently started his own company called Lubricants Incorporated out here in Milwaukee. And he discovered that there was an industrial lubricant that would serve both of those purposes, the EP quality and not cause trouble with the synchronizer. And it was a company called Whitmore. And Whitmore is still in business today. And I'm trying to find out, because one of the distributors, we used to buy Whitmore grease from Moore Outcoming right here in Milwaukee. The only distributors are now in Duluth, Minnesota, and Escanaba, Michigan, which is not really handy. And so I called a company that specializes in industrial lubricants in Milwaukee and asked if they could access the Whitmore grease because that grease is still in business. However, I don't know that they still make that product that we used to use that served both the purpose of this green here, which had a special need for heat grease, and also synchronizer, which had a need for GL grease. And so those are two different things. And so the problem still exists today. If you have a 356, when you get a lubricant that can do both those things. So I have a handout later that pass out to show you some possibilities. And in the meantime, we have people with all kinds of ideas. And because I used to race my cars with that Whitmore grease in it, and I never had to take that gearbox apart after racing my Speedster for 2 years. The synchros never went bad, and the differential never went bad. So that proved that Whitmore grease works. But these lubricants, I don't know what lubricant is available. I'm trying to figure out who makes, because there were synthetic lubricants at that time. So I'm trying to find out as best I can from oil manufacturers as to who makes a product similar to the Whitmore's grease, or if does Whitmore still make that product, because that really proven to be the product that works and serves both of these different purposes, because this needs a very slippery grease, extreme pressure as it's called, and the synchronizer doesn't want that sort of extreme pressure grease on it, so therefore Porsche built a puzzle that's difficult for the oil engineers to solve. And so the other problem that we used to have, these shift forks used to be made of steel, rubbing against the steel powder. And we would take them apart. They get so worn, we could use that for shaving because they were so sharp on the edges because they would wear out so bad. So I don't know if you're familiar with the similar metals. If you take two metals, you rub them together in the same type of metal, they'll wear each other out. But if you take soft metal and hard metal, that won't happen. Interestingly enough, if you use it long enough, does anybody want to guess which metal wears out, the bronze or the steel? What do you think would happen? Actually, the steel wears out. You know what the reason is for that to happen? Although this metal is softer than the steel, dirt gets embedded in this brass because it's a soft material, and under pressure, the transmission oil gets dirty. Dirt will embed itself into this brass because it's soft and wear out that steel ring. So the reason you want to change your oil in the gearbox is to keep the oil clean so that dirt doesn't accumulate and embed itself in this soft metal bronze and wear out the color. Now the types of sinkers that they used in the early transmissions through the 716 transmissions from 1958, they had this particular synchro ring was made of steel, and that was causing the transmission to shift with a lot of resistance because you had to collapse that steel and car would go into gear because that was couch and slide gear. And this collar had a slide over that part of the rear. You see was right here. So what happened is we put a long shift lever in early cars so that you could get the thing to shift. Well, in the later cars, in late 59 and early 60, they started using these soft iron synchros, which would collapse very easily, and therefore the shift fork didn't have so much trouble to slide that collar on for changing gears. And that's cars, the late 59s and through 60 and ABCs. They were all very easy shifting, as you probably know if you've experienced how easy the B series on up. And they shortened the shift lever as a result of that, because they didn't need that long shift lever anymore. And we were just talking that Tom happened to have a vehicle that was built in mine in late 59, and it had the 741 gearbox in it already. And it also had the long gear lever. So you could just look at the gear lever, it was overrun. Because it had so much leverage, and it had really soft synchros that worked so smoothly. Now, they also had a deal where from time to time they were changing these transmission mounts. They had a single mount, then they went to a double mount, then they went back to a single mount in early 60, and then they went back to the double mount because they were messing around trying to figure out which type of mount was going to be best. So those are some of the changes from the years that the gearboxes were subject to. And this unique synchronizer that Porsche used was used in a number of cars. Alfa Romeo used that, BMW used that synchronizer. Ford Motor Company in their trucks use a ZF transmission that had those kind